I'm Chantal Restivo Alessi. I'm the Chief Digital Officer and EVP of International for HarperCollins.
And in the context here at the Frankfurt Book Fair, you gave the vision speech covering the United States for the Markets Global Publishing Summit. And is there a way that you could potentially summarize some of the highlights of that for us and give a sense of where you think this is going and what that vision entails?
Okay. Yes, I touched upon a couple of trends. First of all, covering the recent U.S. trends in terms of ebook sales, and basically our position, our view is that this is a period of transition, and although we're seeing some slowing of the growth in ebooks, this is just a temporary situation due to the fact that there are business model changes in the market, which are resulting in different price points for consumers. But we don't think that it's the end of the ebook, that ebooks are a fad. We think that actually it's a valid format, but it's one of the many choices consumers have. And they'll continue to live in both the print world and the ebook world, which is actually great for consumers and great for publishers.
Does that suggest that this idea, this word plateau has been thrown around a lot, does that suggest that there is potential for more growth in this segment?
I think, from my point of view, I put a slide up there saying that I'm in good company of getting any prediction wrong.
Yes,
but
we all do.
We all do. But basically, yes, our view is that, or my view is that there will be growth. There's always new generations coming on board. I think we haven't seen the full impact of mobile yet completely and what it's doing to reading. And one of the slides I put up there is actually how much more millennials are reading altogether, including books, which is great. So it's just a question of adapting, how we reach consumers, at what price points we reach them, how we communicate to them, how we help them discover our content.
Can you give me a sense of what that adaptation looks like? From there were efforts to sort of standardize a pricing model for certain ebooks, but now we have subscriptions being one of them, and maybe you could elaborate on a few of the other different models you've seen?
Yes, so I think it's a mixture of things. It's optimizing the price point on a title by title basis, and then B, opening up new distribution channels, of which subscription is one. So one thing that we've seen by participating very early in subscription models is seeing how avid the readers were of the businesses that launched in the US. On the other hand, there have been other businesses, maybe more niche focused, that are actually taking a different view. But either way, in both cases, these models are helping discovery. So we've seen a lot of what we call the long tail or the deep backlist being read and discovered by consumers, which is really encouraging again, because it's not been focused on the top, it's actually been very dispersed along the entire catalog.
The proverbial long tail
actually exists as long as I think you make the, there are two things that you need to do. You need to make the entry point very low barrier to entry, so low barrier to discovery. And then the other thing is you working with the subscription services to allow for that discovery to be continuous and to be served up to consumers.
Gotcha. Is there one model in particular that you're keen on seeing developed further? A pay-as-you-read model, for example, or?
I'm up for any model.
You're agnostic.
I'm totally agnostic. I think our job is really to match up, different ways of consumption and testing and experimenting. Some will work out and some will not. It's a packaged approach, right? And then also making sure that in doing so, though, we continue to recognize the value back to the content owners and really to the authors at the end of the day. I'm not supporting any model at any cost. I'm supporting it at the right cost where there's true partnerships and true win-win situations.
Understood. And much of there's been so much talk on the side of authors having a greater command or control over their own publishing experience. Do you have a view on that? I
have a strong view on that.
Let's hear it.
No, I think it's great if some authors can do it, absolutely. But I think it's really, to me, the analogy is, I also worked in advertising, and the
Okay.
analogy is really like an ad agency.
Okay.
The role of ad agency hasn't decreased, it has increased because, yes, P&G could have gone directly to Google and bought search,
Yep.
but they tried in the early days, and then they went back to agencies. And why is that? Because the world is not just about search, right?
Right.
And the analogy in books is the world got more complex. There's many more distribution channels to manage, many more formats to manage. Marketing has become much more complex. Before, you used to just buy space at retail, and that was pretty much it.
Right.
Now you have to develop entire platforms digitally. Now, yes, if you can afford it as an author, you may want to do it yourself. It gets tiring pretty quickly. And then
Right.
on top of that, you add the international dimension, which is another level of complexity. So I strongly believe that if we continue to develop the skill sets,
Yes.
the services, and put the network of people that we have access to the service of an author, there is no reason why an author wouldn't welcome that. In addition to the traditional fact that we still are the bankers for the authors too. So
That traditional model still exists.
that
yeah.
still exists, and that still
Yeah.
has value. And as a house, we offer actually both models.
Okay.
We do have options for people to do just digital, what we call impulse titles, so
Yeah.
digital only, or we offer the traditional model, which includes the advances.
I'm curious because you talked about gains in reading of backlist and mining the backlist, which is it's a sunk cost, so any money derived from that is a benefit. Is there any way to translate those gains from the digital sphere, where discoverability has become more nuanced and more efficient, to the print sphere?
Absolutely. And in fact, one of the things, I think there's huge potential still in that world too. Because e-commerce offers you similar opportunities in terms of not costing you anything to
Right.
to retain and print on demand as well, right? So the barriers to distribution and the barriers to carrying a large catalog are reduced significantly.
Right.
And in buying Harlequin, if you look at Harlequin, they've basically been reselling the same backlist for many, many years, like up to 30 years in some markets.
Indeed.
So you actually see that there is absolutely the ability to do that. And, again, with my music experience, we sold the Beatles or Frank Sinatra 50 times over, right? It was always the same Beatles song, and we still managed to sell it again to new generations. So
And often to the same customer in
to
different
the same
formats.
customers in different formats, different packaging, different offers. So absolutely, you can do that. I think there's a lot of upside still in publishing because that historically hasn't happened.
It's interesting because your view is very optimistic, where sometimes digital and the word innovation is spoken with a certain degree of cynicism at this point, and it's.
It depends where you apply it. You see,
Okay.
I think people have a very narrow view of innovation, and they're
How do you define it?
they're mentioning things like the enhanced ebooks and the app experiments of, it's failed, therefore there is no innovation in publishing. But innovation can be new business models. It can be applying digital to your entire business, not
Right.
just innovating a product. So yes, we failed, and that's good that we even tried.
Yes.
We failed and then moved on. You shouldn't persist in mistakes. That's the whole point of innovation. Fail fast and move on.
Yes.
But then still continue to experiment and use, adapt your business. So
Yes.
it's more an innovation at a business level than it is just at a product level.
Excellent. Is there one product or innovation that you'd like to underscore that your own company has worked on that viewers could potentially go to see exactly what you're talking
Well,
about?
I think, for example, the example I quoted about marketing innovation is huge, right? So I think because discoverability is a key challenge, but also
Yeah.
it's a key service. Epic Reads is an example of where we've actually taken a property, developed it from scratch, a brand that didn't exist before, directed at the millennials and
Yep.
YA, and actually developed it across multiple digital platforms, whether it's a YouTube channel and we create unique content for that. It's not just book trailers, to a website, to social presence. So it's
Right.
actually and an all-encompassing brand that is put at the service of our authors within that genre, so that it speaks to that generation.
So taking the tools and using all these tools to actually have created something new,
Right.
very targeted, that
we can leverage across.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank
This has
you.
been very edifying. Much
Thank you.
appreciated.
All right.